Okay, sorry about the little cut off earlier on that very last question, but the app I used to make your videos only lasts for 15 minutes and it went about 15:30. You should have now watched the video from the Amoeba Sisters explaining osmosis, and hopefully you have opened up or if you haven't, open up Explore Learning and get to the Osmosis Gizmo, and you have downloaded this worksheet that you are currently looking at. Okay, this is what you're going to be doing, and just like we do with every class here, I would like to go over the prior knowledge questions in the Gizmo warm-up here to get you started, and then you will be completing Part A and Part B on this and see. You will be observing osmosis in Part A, and you'll see the effect on the cell volume or cell size in Part B. Okay, so let's go back up here real quickly. We have been talking about active-passive transport. Osmosis is a form of passive transport in which water is getting moved. So we kind of mentioned this previously in class. And suppose you are trapped on a desert island with no source of fresh water. Should you drink the water from the ocean? Explain why or why not. Okay, if you think about what we talked about in class, again, as I said, you should be able to answer this question. But if you drink a water from the ocean, which is going to be a highly concentrated solution of salt water, meaning that it is going to be a very hypertonic solution, and we would talked about what would happen to your cells in a hypertonic solution. Well, in a hypertonic solution, the cells will start pumping their water out. So do you want to drink water from the ocean? The answer is obviously no. This would lead to your cells losing all their water. And because that is what happens when body cells are placed in a highly hypertonic solution. In reality, even though you're drinking water, you're dehydrating your cells by forcing the water out. So now we're just going to apply that to a house plant, and so since again we're going to use salt water to water our plants, we again would be exposing the house plants to a hypersonic solution. So what is going to happen to your house plants? The cells in the house plants would start moving water out, and the plant would begin to wilt. So this would be harmful to the plant to water them with salt water. Actually, if you do this very much, the plant will die rather quickly. Okay, so that is something that we have already talked about here before. So we should now be ready to move on to the warm-up. So hopefully you have opened this gizmo up, and this is what you're going to be working with. As you're doing this, these numbers right here with inside and outside particles and concentrations and salt of the solute and solvent, these are the numbers that you're going to need to pay attention to. You can change the amount of solute all the way from 1 up to 10. Okay, the solute are the purple particles that you see here, and the volume of the cell is the red or pink square here, and you can change its size up and down. I believe on Part A you're going to need this at 40. So let's go back here and see what we'll do. And this is the cell membrane, is the skin that surrounds the cell. It is semi-permeable, which means that it allows some things to pass through and others not. We have our red square that is representing our cell. We have the solute particles, which are the purple ones dissolved in solvent particles. Those are the green ones. So we're simply going to run and play this, and we're going to pay attention to which particles can pass through the cell membrane and which ones cannot. Also, while you're watching, you will need to pay attention to what happens to the cell size, excuse me. So I'm going to hop back over here. I'm going to run this and pay attention to which particles pass through, which particles cannot pass through. Also pay attention to the size of the cell. Okay, and that should have been enough time. And what you should have noticed was that the smaller green particles, which are representing the solvent, actually they're representing particles, were able to pass through. So the green solvent particles passed through. Okay. Again, they are small enough to get through the pores in the membrane and go in and out of the cell. So which particles could not pass through? If you pay close attention there, you realized that the purple solute particles would not pass through. Did not pass through. Okay, now, again, because of the differences in concentration, water was going to move more in or move more out to try to reach equilibrium. Okay, so if you would have checked your percentages, and I'll hop back over there, if you would have checked these percentages before you start, and I'll hit the repeat, you'll notice that we have a greater number of particles outside and less particles inside, so that means we have more water inside, less water outside. So based on what we learned on the previous two questions, we should be able to predict what happened, and that is that the cell should have gotten smaller. If I replay this, you can see that the cell is gradually, very gradually shrinking. That is because the water, or the green particles, more green particles are moving out than are moving in. Okay, so what do you notice happened to the cell? The cell gradually shrunk. So let's just put got smaller. Okay. Now, you are going to start doing parts A and part B. In the first part, we're simply looking at osmosis. Again, you're going to be keeping track of the particles inside and outside and the concentrations. Again, you can just keep track of those numbers right here on the Gizmo. And then, simply for number 3, you're writing decrease stays the same or increases on these lines. Okay, please again remember to change the color to red for your answers. It makes it easier for me when I look at them to grade. Okay. Again, solvent concentration inside the cell, solvent concentration outside. You just get that right off the Gizmo. Do the solvent move into or out of the cell? Again, just watch and see if the cell expands or shrinks, and that'll tell you, because the solvent will be the water or the green particles. And then you just have to do some fill in the blank. Okay. In this particular fill in the blank, let's use the words high and low for the amount of concentration. And then we will either use out of or into, and the cell will either shrink or expand. You should be able to complete that. And then up activity B, doing a very similar thing. You can make some predictions here at the top, and then you're going to see what actually happens. Okay, again, you will simply predicting, is it going to swell, shrink, or stay the same. Please make your predictions before and then see how you do. Okay, then please answer the last two questions. This is going to show me your understanding of what went on. Okay, once you finish this, very important that you move on. And don't forget to scroll down here and do your 5 assessment questions. Okay, so have a great day and make sure everything gets completed, and I wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving.